What is up? Need for Speed Racers. It is I, your wheelman, Alex Cornnut. We're here with the Audi S5 Sportback. It's Billion Dollar Builds, episode 9, where I take $1 billion and I build every car in the game, so that way no matter what car you want, what class you want to drive it in, I've got something spicy for you. Today I've got A+, S, and S+ built out for this car. No drift setups because honestly, the drifters are saying it's not that great. And as a grip player, I'm saying it's not that great. It's kind of like the lowest of the 3 Audis, but it is here. Some people are going to want to drive it, so let's dig into it right now. We're going to start in the A class. The engine that we're going to build on for this one is the second engine over. It is the 3.0 liter V6 Sport Bronze, 349 horsepower when we start. We don't really get to add too much to that. A class is really underwhelming. You're going to do Silver Pro induction, and then you're going to keep your Sport Bronze ECU, stock fuel system, which is Sport Bronze, and then that same stock exhaust, which is also bronze. We do get to put a Silver Pro Roots supercharger in it to give it a little bit more bottom end, but it's really underwhelming at A class. It's here, but not great. Sport Bronze bottle of NOS, Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, and Elite Platinum grip tires. It does come with a gold clutch. That's nice, but not a very good, I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. 6-speed Silver Pro transmission, and then I run the Elite Platinum diff. In this build, guys, you don't need to do any diff if you don't want. You can get away with the basic, but I'd at least put the bronze in, or buy the Elite Platinum diff so that way you've got it for the future builds. Auxiliaries, they don't work, so you do you if you want to buy them or not. Handling, 45% grip is the only way we could get this much horsepower in it, so we sacrifice a lot on the grip side to have a little bit more performance, and it still is pretty not very good in A class. But you're not going to have any problems with it as far as it being rowdy on you. These Audis handle really good. They just don't. This one's geared really inappropriately, and so you can't get any power in it. Steering sensitivity, I run 2 clicks high. Downforce all the way high. It's the only way to make it fit at A209. Traction control off. Drift entries, brake, tap. 177 for the top speed. You will never get there ever in A class. It doesn't have the power. 393 on the horsepower, 410 on the torque. That is as optimized as we can get it. That's the most we can cram in it. But the problem with this car is even with the 6-speed, it's got really long gearing. So the way the game is calculating the stats, it's seeing that top speed and going, oh, well, it must be, you know, higher PI performance index, and it just doesn't let us build into it and put a lot of power in it, which makes the car kind of underpowered for each class we build it in, thus making it not all that competitive. But that's the A class. If you decide you want to do that, it is better at A+ and S. So let's dig into those. It's a little more competitive at A+. As we tier up, we're able to get a little more power in it. But like I said, that transmission really does hurt us in the long run. I wish there was a 5-speed that would limit to like 160, and then I could really make this thing sing. But anyway, we're here. Let's go. Engine is the second engine over, 3.0 liter V6, 349 brake horsepower. That is the Sport Bronze engine. It's okay. A+ is, like I said, not as bad as A. We do Silver Pro induction. It is Super Gold ECU. It is still the Sport Bronze fuel system and the Sport Bronze exhaust. But now we're putting in the Elite Platinum screw supercharger. We tried a couple different configurations, and at the end of the day, you need the screw or the roots to get as much out of the low end as you can. The car just feels a little sluggish, a little heavy. It doesn't accelerate as good as I would like. We do run Sport Bronze bottle of NOS. Same deal on the chassis. It's Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, Elite Platinum grip tires, stock clutch, which is that Super Gold, and then tier that transmission down to the Silver Pro 6-speed. Elite Platinum diff. If you want to save some money on this one, you guys can get away with the Silver Pro if you want. And then auxiliaries, don't buy them, they don't work. Handling, slide the slider, we're 75% grip on this build. It's not a problem, it still feels plenty grippy. Steering sensitivity, that's personal preference, and then downforce, run that all the way high. Anywhere, oh, it's the last 3 clicks, excuse me. Anywhere else lower than that's 270, takes it out of the class. Really, this car is, once again, kind of underwhelming. It's because the game says, hey, it'll do 188, but with the 500 horsepower that we're cramming in it, 543 to be specific, it really just doesn't get there. and so unfortunately it's kind of a slouch. 542 for the torque. It's all right, but I don't know, man. It's hard not to be omega negative about it. It just doesn't perform the way I'd like it to. Once you add a horsepower, it gets going, but you're really competing against cracked cars, and this is not one of them. Let me show you what we've got for S. One thing I will say is I like the variants with the different body kits, different parts on it. I mean, you can really make these things look any way you want, from full time attack race car to subtle sleeper and everything else in between. So at least that's got it going for it. We still continue with that same engine. It's the 3.0 liter V6, 349 brake horsepower, second engine over, Sport Bronze. At S class, it's a little more competitive. It's still not keeping up with some of the other really good cars, but you're not going to get walked nearly as hard at S class because we're able to add a proper amount of power to make it go. So it's Elite Platinum induction, Elite Platinum ECU, Elite Platinum fuel system, and then Silver Pro exhaust. We pair all of that up with the Elite Platinum Roots supercharger. That is how we make it all work. The screw just didn't fit. We do run Sport Bronze Nitrous, and then the chassis is the same as the last three builds. So it is Elite Platinum road suspension, stock brakes, Elite Platinum grip tires, gold clutch, and then the Silver Pro 6-speed transmission, and then run that Elite Platinum diff if you want. Handling, 70% grip. Once we start adding this kind of crazy power, anything above that just takes it out of the class. Downforce, you've got to run the last 2 clicks. Everything else is not in the class. And then traction control off, brake taps what I run for that. Once again, you guys will see it says it does 213. Theoretically, it never really gets there. You just don't have enough power to push it. If this car had like another 200 horsepower in S class and it actually did 213, it would be pretty cracked. It would actually be very, very good, but as we keep adding power, the game sees that top speed's going up, even though we're on the lowest tier transmission. It just doesn't allow us to add the right power to weight ratio that we would need to make this car pretty competitive. So that's kind of a bummer. That's why the Audi R8 is so competitive, you guys. It maxes out at like 190, so we can cram a ton of horsepower into it, and it really accelerates hard. It does very good, and it's got crazy grip coefficient. This car just kind of falls on its face because it just doesn't have the ability for us to nerf 20 mile an hour off the top end on this. Would make this car a lot more competitive because then we'd have a lot more to play with on the horsepower side. So the balance is just out there. So developers, if you want to reach out to me to start making your cars competitive, let me know. I'd be in. All right, let's move on to S Plus. Honestly, out of all the builds, it's probably most competitive there, but it's not competitive at all. So, you figure that out. Anyway, let's go. Oh yeah, horsepower on this one, it is 743 on the horsepower, 691 on the torque. Once again, that's the most we're going to cram into the S class. If you find a way to get more without running the Sentry, let me know. The Sentry just doesn't help this car at all. All right, let's go run around in S Plus. I like the styling of this car so much. It's like actually my favorite of the 3 Audis. You can just really make it look pretty cool. And I kind of thought this was like a very kind of street sleeper, big wing on the back, but like just blacked out and fast, and it looks pretty tight. I do like it. So that being said, we do get to finally change things up in the S Plus class. I built out all of the engines with the screw max parts. We've got Elite Platinum everything. So as you're going through the engines, the 4th engine over, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's the 435 brake horsepower 5.0 liter V8. That's the one that gets you the most overall stats, thus giving you the best performance by far in this chassis. The rest, like that one's got a little more torque, but a lot less horsepower, and the rest just have less all the way around. And so we're not trading any top speed values or anything. This has actually got the best theoretical top speed and the most horsepower and torque to match. So overall, the 5.0 V8 is by far and away the engine to build on, but with the lower tiers it wasn't, because you couldn't put quite as much into it. So for an S Plus build, as we do, it's Elite Platinum, all of it. So just buy all the best parts for that engine. Now when it comes to your forced induction, run the screw. Guys, you are not walking anything in this car. It doesn't have enough power on the big end. The last gear just feels slow. 8th gear is kind of a joke. So you can go and you can throw in the single turbo and get 17 more horsepower, but you are trading 40 foot-pounds of torque. Not a good trade-off, especially because a lot of the S Plus tracks, they are corner kings, so to speak. You're going to be running around in the lower gears trying to accelerate, and that's when you're going to want the screw for sure. Everything else Elite Platinum, go with it. Make sure you put in the best transmission. But you'll see, guys, there's no difference between the 8 and the 6 when it comes to the top speed value. The reason that is because the 6 speed will get you to 233, and so will the 8 speed. The 8 speed actually changes the gear ratios a little bit, so you have a better selection of what gear you want to be in for the corner, so that's what I recommend. But at the end of the day, that is the reason that this car is underperforming at the lower tiers. All the transmissions go to a very high value when you add power, and there's no way to limit that, thus not allowing us to add the horsepower that we would need to be competitive. That, I think, is an oversight from the devs. This is an example of them really not spending much time in the tuning and driving the cars and just throwing calculations at the wall, see what sticks. Okay, cool, it's got parts, we're done here. I don't know. Being a hardcore gamer racer in this, I really get a little frustrated when that happens, because I think this car does have good potential, but those transmissions would have to be fixed. We would have to have a 6 gear, like the 6 speed hardcore, limit this thing to like 170, 160, and then as we tier up the transmission, thus increasing the top speed, it would let us play a little more with the engine pairings, and we would have more fun. Anyway, a little different mood today on this one. I really want this car to be good because that's probably my favorite styling. It just doesn't hit the way I'd like. But that is S+, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I don't have a channel without viewers. Like the video if you would. If the new thing on YouTube is sharing it, like clicking the share button, creating a link and sending it to somebody and then having them click on that. Somehow that is the new metric by which YouTube wants us to play by. And it's like impossible for me to get that to work. But if you have a friend that's into the builds, maybe share the video with them. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.